3 years. That's how long it took me to save for the car I finally bought. It wasn't flashy. No leather seats, no sunroof, no badge that turned heads, just a dependable sedan with good mileage, paid in full, no debt. I walked into that dealership knowing exactly what I wanted: practicality, independence. Something that wouldn't scream, but wouldn't sink me either. I signed the papers with a steady hand. As I sat behind the wheel that day, all I could think was, maybe this time they'll see I've done something worth noticing. I knew better than to expect much, but still, just once a "we're proud of you" would have meant something. Pulling into my parents' driveway, I parked next to Tanya's SUV, the one Dad co-signed on last year. Hers was all polish and shine, even the tires gleamed. Mine looked like a teacher's car, modest, worn in. I stepped out just as Mom waved from the porch, apron on, smile wide. "You bought this?" she asked, eyes scanning the car like it was a hand-me-down, half surprise, half judgment, that tone that never quite cuts, but never hugs either. Before I could answer, Dad walked out behind her, gave me a nod. "You made it," he said, not a word about the car, not even a glance. Tanya came out next, hair curled, sunglasses on even though the sun was setting. Mom lit up. "Look who's here!" At dinner, the table buzzed with energy. Tanya was talking about her mortgage approval, big words like equity and interest rate lock. Everyone hung on to her every syllable like she'd just closed a Fortune 500 deal. "To owning your first home." Dad raised his glass. Glasses clinked. Smiles bloomed. I lifted mine too, but no one looked my way. I tried to slip in a line about the car. "Actually, oh, that's nice. Anyway, Tanya, tell them about the kitchen upgrades." Mom's interruption landed like a fly in a glass of water. Subtle. "But enough to ruin the sip," Dad added. "Well, a house is a bigger step anyway." I nodded, said nothing, just kept chewing. My fork scraped the plate louder than I wanted it to. By the time I drove home, the sun had dipped, and so had my mood. The streetlights blurred through the windshield. I didn't even turn on the radio. Just silence, and thoughts that echoed. Graduation. First job. Promotions. Always good for you, or "That's nice, honey." But never pride, never presence. They missed my college ceremony for Tanya's dance recital. Told me later, "You know how important her competitions are." I pulled into my parking spot, killed the engine, and sat. My hands found the keychain with my name carved into it. Cheryl. Made it myself last Christmas because nobody ever spelled it right on theirs. I gripped it like it meant something. They always saw Tanya, always heard her. Me? I was wallpaper. The car. It ran like a charm. Reliable. No frills. Just like me. "Cheap looking," Mom had said. Is that what they see when they look at my life? A budget version? Practical but unimpressive? I thought of the zero debt, the quiet discipline it took to get here. No skipped bills, no borrowed cash, no cosigns. I built this. I paid for every inch. I popped open the glove compartment. Inside was a folded page, my original savings plan. Dated March 2020. At the top, written in Sharpie, "Save for a car, not for them, for me." I stared at that line, my own handwriting, my own reminder. "If even this isn't enough for them," I whispered, "what will be?" I glanced at the keychain again, fingers brushing over each letter. Cheryl. Not for their ears. Just so I could still hear myself. Tanya's news came in a group text, short, chirpy. "Pre-approved! Mortgage, here I come!" Within 5 minutes, Mom had replied with confetti emojis and "We have to celebrate." Everyone chimed in with thumbs ups and dinner suggestions. Nobody asked if I could make it. The date was picked, the meal planned, and it was assumed I'd be there, same as always. I looked at my phone, reading the messages over again. Not one said, "Cheryl, can you come?" Not even, "What do you think?" I was just part of the backdrop. "I guess I'm just another seat filler," I muttered to no one. When the night came, Tanya showed up looking like she stepped out of a real estate commercial. Hair done, clothes crisp, ready to be the center of the table. And she was. Mom was beaming, hovering, making sure the lighting was right for the photos she kept taking. I walked in 10 minutes later. Nobody looked up. No one stood. At the dining table, there were name cards, Tanya's written in cursive gold on a folded ivory card. Mine was scribbled in ballpoint pen, spelled wrong. Dad pulled out his phone for pictures. Let's get one with the family. I stood next to Tanya, smiled like muscle memory. After the shutter click, I stepped aside, thinking the next round would be for everyone. But it wasn't. I never got asked to come back in. Later that night, I saw the photos online. The one I was in. Cropped. Just a shoulder, and part of my arm near the edge of the frame. Dinner started with wine and laughter. Dad tapped his glass with a fork and stood up. To Tanya, he said. Our daughter's next big step. This is what we always hoped for. This is what dreams coming true looks like. I lifted my glass, too. Nobody clinked with mine. I didn't even know I was holding my breath until my niece piped up. Did Aunt Cheryl buy a house, too? Mom didn't miss a beat. Not yet, sweetie. Everyone laughed softly. It felt like a joke I didn't get, but one I was clearly the punchline of. I didn't argue. I just ate. Quietly. Every bite tasted like cardboard. I counted the chews to avoid speaking. After dessert, I stepped into the hallway, needing air more than cake. A friend of the family I barely knew came over. So, what do you do these days? She asked, kindly. I opened my mouth, but before a word came out, Mom appeared from behind me. Oh, she's into computers or something. Very private work. The woman smiled, nodded, then turned to Tanya. How's your husband enjoying the new job? I stood there, invisible. Funny how easily they can define me when it's convenient, and dismiss me just as fast. The rest of the evening, I was just a smile and a nod. Nobody asked me another thing. Nobody noticed when I left the table. The drive home was dark and long. I didn't put on music. I didn't need it. My mind played the whole night back like a security reel. Every moment where I vanished before anyone had to make eye contact. At a red light, I opened my phone. The cropped photo stared back at me. My arm, Tanya's full face. I saved it. Not for memory, for evidence. When they erase you, I whispered to the windshield, you start fading on your own. Back at the apartment, I drafted a note in my phone. For when I finally speak. Nothing dramatic, just a list. Times I was there. Moments I showed up. Names they forgot to call mine. I sat in the car a while longer. Then I said my name out loud. Not angry, not loud. Just so I wouldn't forget it still belonged to me. I stopped asking why they do it. I started asking what I'd do with this pain. The photo was still open on my screen. I thought about sending it to Mom. Caption. This was your celebration. I was there too. But I didn't. I wasn't ready for that kind of war. Instead, I slid the phone into the glove box, right next to the keychain I carved last Christmas. Cheryl. Still spelled right. Still mine. If they won't hold space for me, I thought, I'll make my own. I didn't cry, but I didn't smile either. That Wednesday started like any other, but something felt off. I got out of bed, made my usual cup of coffee, and sat at the kitchen table. The light coming through the blinds felt harsher. Or maybe I was just tired. I opened my phone, and there it was, still pinned at the top of the group chat. Tanya's mortgage celebration post. All the same emojis, all the same people congratulating her, all the same silence about the car I'd saved 3 years to buy. I stared at the message longer than I should have. My coffee went cold. Maybe I was being dramatic. Maybe I was imagining it all. I'd been telling myself that a lot lately. Before heading home that evening, I swung by my parents' house to grab some documents I'd left in a desk drawer. They weren't home. Mom had texted me that she and Dad were out getting a few things for Tanya's new place. No surprise there. I walked into the study. The house was quiet, still smelled like furniture polish and lavender. I opened the bottom drawer, rummaging through some old receipts and file folders, but what caught my attention wasn't in the drawer. It was the printer. A sheet had just printed, still warm to the touch. I picked it up, casually. It was a bank transfer confirmation. The name on the account? My father's. The amount? Substantial. The recipient? Tanya and Jared. Date of transfer? 2 days before that mortgage pre-approval dinner. I stood there holding that piece of paper, feeling like the floor beneath me had shifted. I sat down slowly, the paper trembling in my hand. It wasn't just that they helped her. It was that they lied by omission. Sat at that dinner table and let me believe she'd done it alone, that she'd earned it all herself, that she was the one who made it. And I clapped, I smiled, I toasted, like an idiot. I didn't mind being the one who worked quietly. I didn't care that I drove a cheaper car or lived in a smaller apartment. But I cared that they let her skip the line I fought to crawl through and acted like it made her better. I leaned back in the chair, closed my eyes. The paper rested on my lap like a confession. Later that night, I scrolled through old message threads, trying to distract myself. That's when I found it, or rather, noticed it was missing. The Ramsey family planning group chat. Gone. I hadn't left it. I checked with my cousin Mia, asked her if she could forward me an old message from that group. Oops, didn't realize you weren't in it anymore, she texted, followed by a screenshot. It was from 2 weeks ago. Planning Tanya's brunch. Mom had written, "Let's not involve Cheryl. She always makes things awkward." Right there, beside her name, no smiley face, no softened tone, just a sentence like a stamp. It didn't surprise me, but it still hurt, in that quiet, gutting kind of way. I didn't reply to Mia. Instead, I opened my laptop, created a new folder. Family Truths. Inside it, I saved a scan of the bank transfer, a screenshot of the group chat. I wasn't planning to do anything with it yet, but it needed to exist somewhere outside my memory. I read through every message in that thread, looking, hoping for just one person who asked where I was, who wondered why I wasn't invited. No one did. They'd decided who I was, and I'd been trying to prove them wrong ever since. I saved the transfer as Transfer Tanya Hidden JPG, titled The Chat Thread Excluded by Design.png. No more defending myself in invisible arguments, no more waiting to be chosen. Later, while cleaning up, I thought about something my therapist once told me. The problem isn't that they don't see you, it's that they choose not to. I let that settle deep in my chest as I clicked save on each file. I wasn't ready to speak out yet, but I was done pretending. If they thought I wouldn't notice, if they thought I'd just keep smiling and showing up, they didn't know me at all. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I wasn't looking for apologies. I was looking for clarity. And now, I had it. The text came on a Friday night. Come by around 3. Tanya's having some people over. That was it. No smiley face, no exclamation point, no mention of what some people meant. But I'd already seen the event online, Tanya's mortgage milestone bash, complete with balloon arches and a mimosa bar. I didn't reply. I didn't ask if I should bring anything. Instead, I spent Saturday morning baking, a dark chocolate cake with raspberry filling. Simple, clean, elegant. I piped on one line of white icing across the top. To new beginnings. It wasn't a peace offering. It wasn't a cry for attention either. It was just an act, a way to show up without hoping for anything. I wore a navy blouse, flats, nothing that called for compliments. As I backed out of my driveway, I said to myself, this time, I'll watch everything. I won't hope for anything. The living room was packed when I arrived. Tanya's friends, some I vaguely recognized, smiled politely. A few nodded. No hugs. Mom greeted me near the kitchen. Oh, you made it. That's perfect, she said, lifting the cake box from my hands. She peeked inside. Beautiful. Absolutely perfect. Then she rotated the cake, spun it so the front faced the dining table, and added a gold placard. From Mom, Dad. So proud of you. I didn't say a word. She walked off before I could. 10 minutes later, everyone gathered to applaud as the cake was brought out. Tanya cut the first slice, laughing, thanking Mom and Dad again for thinking of everything. I stood near the back, silent, invisible. No one asked who made it. No one cared. I almost spoke. I almost reached for my mother's elbow, almost asked her why she couldn't say my name out loud for once. But I stopped when I saw her leaning toward a neighbor, whispering with a smile. Cheryl's always been complicated, I heard her say, like she was talking about a recipe that never quite came out right. I clenched my jaw. Walked past the crowd into the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, counted my breaths. A cousin walked in. That cake was beautiful. Do you know who made it? I didn't blink. Doesn't really matter now, does it? I replied. And I meant it. They didn't forget. They just didn't care if it was mine. Tanya gave a short speech before dessert ended. She thanked her husband for supporting her through the process. Thanked their parents for being the rock we built this on. She looked around the room like a queen surveying her court. I wasn't mentioned. Not once. At one point, someone handed me a phone. Can you take one of us? I did. The shot came out fine. I passed the phone back and returned to my corner. You've always been the quiet one, huh? Dad said as he passed me with a plate. I smiled. It wasn't a compliment. It never had been. Later, one of Tanya's friends came up to me while we were clearing cups. Your mom was just saying how much she admires your independence, she said. Said you've always done your own thing? I nodded, gave her a half smile. 10 minutes later, I heard Mom talking to another guest near the hallway. Cheryl, she likes to be different, doesn't like traditions. We just let her be. Let me be. Like I was some stray they decided not to cage. I didn't argue, didn't correct anyone, didn't say I'd been the one who called every Sunday when Tanya forgot, didn't mention the time I drove 2 hours to drop off their meds because they didn't want to deal with online orders. To them, I'm an asterisk, I thought. A side note. The drive home was quiet. I took the long way, passed by a bakery I'd never stopped at before. I pulled in, went inside, ordered a single cupcake, chocolate, with buttercream icing. Can you write a name on it? I asked the girl at the counter. She nodded. What name? Cheryl. Back in the car, I ate it with the dome lid still off to the side. No cameras, no captions, no thank yous. This one was for me, only me. I opened my phone and added the photo to my Family Truths folder. Then I opened Notes and wrote a new line. I will no longer show up to be erased. It was a Thursday night. I'd just gotten home from work, shoes off, finally breathing. Dinner was microwaved leftovers, nothing fancy. I sat on the couch, scrolling, half distracted. Then I saw it. A Facebook post from my aunt. The beach in Florida. Sand, sunlight, palm trees bending like they were posing for a catalog. My parents were in the picture. So was Tanya, her husband, and 3 of our cousins. Caption read, "Family time, couldn't be more blessed." I sat up straighter, read it again, checked the tag list. They were all in it. Everyone but me. No invite. No hey, you coming? Not even a mention. It wasn't the absence that gutted me. It was the effort they made to pretend I never existed in the first place. I stared at the screen, waiting for something in my brain to explain it away. Maybe it was a last-minute trip. Maybe I missed a call. I opened my texts. Nothing. Checked the old family group thread, except it wasn't there anymore. Not on my phone, at least. I clicked the photo again. Noticed the hashtags. #planned perfectly, #family tradition, #finally all together planned. Weeks ago. And no one thought to even fake invite me. They don't forget me, I said out loud, voice dry. They just don't include me. I scrolled back through my messages, found the group thread from last year. I had been removed. Quietly. No alert, just erased. I called my mother. She answered on the second ring, chipper. Oh, hi honey, everything okay? I didn't yell, didn't cry, just asked, you guys are in Florida? There was a pause, barely a beat. Yes, just a quick trip. Tanya needed a break. Jared's been so busy and your dad had airline points. You didn't even ask if I wanted to come. Her voice shifted, soft but sharp. We thought you were busy with work. You didn't ask. It wasn't personal. I was silent. Then she added it. The sentence that would rot in my chest for days. Honestly, You've always preferred to be alone. You never really understood family like Tanya does. I ended the call without another word. Back in my driveway, I stayed in the car, engine off, light still glowing on the dashboard. I didn't move, didn't blink for a while. Was I really that separate from them? Had I made myself this forgettable? Or had they just decided, quietly, thoroughly, that I didn't fit the family mold? I pulled my old journal from the glove box. Hadn't opened it in months. First line I wrote was the title, "When You Learn It Wasn't a Misunderstanding, It Was Intentional." And for the first time, I cried. Not because I was sad, but because I was tired. So tired. My tears didn't come with sobs. They came like a faucet that wouldn't shut off. Quiet. I let them fall. I closed the book, put it back. The next morning, before I even finished my coffee, I opened the family group chat, or what was left of it. I typed, "I think I need a little space from all of this. Wishing you well." My thumb hovered over send, and then I didn't. Walking away in silence is what they expect me to do, I thought. Again. I deleted the message. Instead, I opened the Family Truths folder on my laptop, created a new file. Reasons I almost left without a word. Typed everything that burned. Didn't title it with anger, just documentation. Later that evening, I opened all the files I'd saved over the last few weeks. Screenshots, bank receipts, the cake photo, Tanya's posts, Mom's captions, deleted comments someone had messaged me before they vanished. I wasn't looking at them for revenge. I was studying them, laying them out like puzzle pieces. Patterns, signs, not to go after anyone, but to finally stop lying to myself. I began organizing. By date, by context, by betrayal. I didn't feel small anymore. I felt sharp, focused. I wasn't keeping receipts anymore. I was keeping records, and this time I wouldn't forget what I saw. I wasn't going to confront anyone tomorrow, but I also wasn't going to shrink the next time they tried to put me in a corner. I swung by my parents' house to grab a package that had been misdelivered. Just a quick stop, nothing more. The door was unlocked, nothing new there, and the place was quiet. Mom had texted earlier that she and Dad were out shopping for a few little things for Tanya's guest room. I walked into the kitchen and froze. The water purifier I gave Mom 6 months ago, my first real splurge for her, was gone. In its place sat a cheaper plastic pitcher. I blinked, wondering if I'd just forgotten. Then from the living room, a FaceTime call lit up the silence. Tanya's voice came through, bubbly. "It looks perfect in the corner," Mom laughed. "Well, it fits better in her kitchen anyway." That was it. No explanation, no thank you, no heads up. I didn't say a word, just stood there, keys still in my hand. I'd bought that purifier after my bonus came in. No one told me to. I just thought maybe this time a thoughtful gift would land. Instead, it got reassigned. Repackaged affection. I drove home slowly, letting the traffic fill the silence in my head. Later that evening, scrolling through Instagram, I saw Tanya had posted a kitchen photo. There it was again. My gift. The caption read, "Loving this gift from my amazing parents." And below, Mom's comment, "We always knew you'd create a beautiful home." Hearts, confetti. Cheers. No correction. No credit. That's when it clicked. Not about the gift, but about the pattern. They don't steal things. They steal intention. They borrow your kindness and attach someone else's name to it. I said nothing. But that night, a letter from the bank caught my eye in the stack of mail I'd been ignoring all week. It was a credit notice. Something about shared liability. I almost tossed it, but something made me open it. My name was listed as a co-signer on Tanya's mortgage. I stared at the letter like it was written in a foreign language. I hadn't signed anything, hadn't even known. It wasn't until I dug through my email archive that I found it, an old e-signature form I'd used years ago for my car lease. Same format, same digital initials, likely copied, likely reused. No one asked, no one told me. I closed the laptop, sat at the edge of my bed. This wasn't an accident. This was crossing a line and pretending it was kindness. I didn't yell. I didn't call. I opened a private browser, started researching legal hotlines, liability clauses, what it takes to prove forgery. Instead of screaming, I filed. Instead of blaming, I tracked. I downloaded every document I could find, every email, every comment. I opened a new folder on my laptop, labeled it Lines Crossed without asking. The work gave me something to hold on to. Not control, but clarity. The next morning, I drafted an email. No subject line. Just stared at the blinking cursor. Then deleted it. They wouldn't read it. Not the way I meant. They'd call it emotional, dramatic, sensitive. So instead, I printed everything, slid the pages into an envelope, wrote across the front, "Just so you know." I didn't mail it. I tucked it beside the carved keychain in my drawer. I wasn't preparing for war. I was preparing for reality. From that day forward, I stopped answering the family group chat, turned off read receipts, started screenshotting every message. I logged requests, tracked comments, noted dates. My phone became a diary of quiet evidence. I wasn't planning anything, but I wasn't going to be caught off guard again. This isn't miscommunication, I told myself. It's design. And I won't pretend not to see it anymore. The message came late Tuesday afternoon. I was in the middle of clearing emails when it popped up. "Let's grab coffee. Been thinking about you." It was from Gretchen, Tanya's old college friend. I hadn't seen her in years. We were never close, just adjacent in family functions. I almost ignored it, but something about the way she phrased it, no small talk, just direct, made me respond. "Sure, when?" "Tomorrow. My treat." We met at a cafe on the west side. Nothing fancy. Just quiet enough to hear your own thoughts. She smiled as I walked in. I nodded, cautious. We talked about the weather, job stuff, how time seemed to blur now. Then, in between a sip and a pause, she leaned in. "Can I say something honestly?" I nodded. "I always thought you were the one that would rise the highest," she said. "Even back then. I used to wonder why your family acted like you didn't exist." I didn't breathe, just sat still. "Tanya's good, sure," she continued. "But you carry things differently. You're quiet, but not small. I hope you know they dim you so she can glow brighter." I stared at my hands. "It's more complicated than that." "Maybe," she said, "but it's not invisible." That night, I sat at my kitchen table scrolling through social media. Tanya had posted a picture with our parents, another sponsored post, perfectly framed. Couldn't have done it without my amazing parents. The comments rolled in. "You're the glue in your family. Your sister's lucky to have you." Then I saw it. Mom's comment. "She always puts family first. Couldn't ask for a better daughter." Not a word about me. Not even a hint. I closed the app, set the phone face down. "I've never been the daughter they wanted," I said out loud. Just the one they needed to forget. I pulled out a notebook. No preamble, no emotion. I started listing. Grocery runs when Dad was sick. Late night calls when Mom couldn't sleep. The loan I never got back. The holiday dinners I cooked when Tanya didn't show. And then, beside each item, I wrote what was said instead. Tanya ordered dessert. Tanya's busy. Tanya needs the break more. At the top of the page, I wrote what I gave versus what they claimed. This wasn't bitterness. It was inventory. "I wasn't bitter," I whispered. "I was buried." I stood up and opened my laptop. The folder Family Truths was waiting. But this time, I didn't just look. I sorted. Emotional omission, public manipulation, financial misuse. I started building a timeline. Not to attack, but to own what happened. The real story. I grabbed a sticky note and wrote, "When they ask, I won't explain. I'll show." Then I opened my calendar. Found my birthday. Circled it. That would be the day I spoke again, not with noise, but with evidence. It would be the day I reintroduced myself. I stood, walked down the hallway. The mirror caught my reflection. Same face. Same eyes. but something sharper around the edges. I paused, looked straight into it. Cheryl. I whispered it, not because I forgot, but because I needed to hear it said with certainty. I thought of Gretchen's words. They dim you so she can glow. Not anymore. I pulled a blazer from the coat rack and put it on. No reason, no destination, just to remind myself that I still knew how to hold presence. You don't need their spotlight to shine, I said to the mirror. And for the first time in a long while, I smiled. Not to forgive, but because I finally believed myself. I wasn't invited, no surprise there, not really, but the sting still came when I saw it on Facebook, live, in real time. Tanya had posted a photo from her new place. The brunch table was set like something out of a wedding catalog. Roses, gold-rimmed plates, homemade signage that read, Family Appreciation Brunch. The caption under one photo read, From Mom Dad, Homeowner's Blessing. That's when I saw it. An envelope, wrapped in cream ribbon, handed to Tanya by my mother. The handwriting on the front, the fold of the paper. I knew it like I knew my own name. It was mine. I had written it. For Mom. Months ago. A birthday card. I'd even sealed it with that same wax stamp she always liked. They'd kept it and re-gifted it to Tanya. I clicked away from the photo, heart thudding, not from shock, but from something colder. A quiet, familiar ache, one I'd long stopped trying to name. Minutes later, Tanya posted another photo, this time her flanked by Mom and Dad. Everyone was smiling like they'd won something. The caption, 3 generations, 1 legacy, so grateful to be raised by love. I wasn't tagged, I wasn't in any of the photos, wasn't referenced, not even a passing word. Then came the comments. Beautiful family. So lucky to have such strong roots. One stood out. What about your sister? Patricia replied under the thread. She's doing her own thing. We're proud in our own way. Proud in our own way. I screenshotted the whole thing. This time, I didn't just save it to the folder. I stared at it. Let it soak in. Let it shift something inside me. Another comment popped up beneath it from someone I vaguely remembered, an old friend of Tanya's. Didn't Cheryl give that envelope to your mom last year? 10 minutes later, the comment was gone. Deleted, but not before I got it saved. That was the spark. No arguments followed. Just a quiet ripple. Likes disappeared. Side conversations bloomed in DMs. I didn't reply. I didn't comment. But silence this time wasn't safe. It was movement. People were beginning to notice. That night, I printed every screenshot, the brunch post, the deleted comment, the envelope in Tanya's hands. I laid them out on my table like evidence, cold, plain, undeniable. Then I wrote a letter, not to send, but to say what hadn't been said. I took the envelope photo and placed it next to the carved keychain from that first chapter of this whole mess. Funny how the smallest things held the most weight. I sat for a long time, thinking back. Thinking about how many small things got twisted, reworded, reassigned. This wasn't about a seat at their table anymore. This was about the story they kept writing without me in it. So I wrote my own. Sometimes, I posted publicly, silence looks like maturity. Other times, it looks like being erased. That was it. No names, no photos, no tags, but it landed. Old coworkers commented. People I hadn't heard from in years. Some said nothing, just hit like. That was enough. I ended it with one line. I was there, just not in the picture. It didn't go viral. It didn't have to. It was seen. Patricia texted later that night. You didn't have to do that. I stared at the message, didn't answer. Tanya called the next day. Her voice was stiff. Said Mom was upset. Said things were spinning out more than they should. Can you fix this? I didn't get mad. I didn't sigh. I just said, sure, I'll come over. I showed up that Sunday afternoon, no dramatics, just a printed photo, a screenshot, and a copy of the original envelope. I placed them on the table. I'm not here to argue, I said. I just want you to see I never disappeared. You erased me. Patricia didn't meet my eyes. Tanya looked away. If you lie about who gave the gift, I said slowly, don't act surprised when the person you erased writes their own version. I picked up my purse. Walked out without another word. It had been a full month since I last heard my mother's voice. Not a call, not even one of her clipped, punctuation-heavy texts. The family group chat had gone silent, too. No updates, no photos, just nothing. And it was the most peace I'd had in years. I started waking up earlier, not because I had to, but because I could. I made coffee and went on slow walks, sometimes without my phone. There was space now, space that didn't beg to be filled with apologies or explanations. I didn't open the family truths folder anymore, not because I forgot, but because I didn't need to remind myself of what I already knew. The silence stung, but it also healed. Then, while clearing out a storage unit I'd put off for far too long, I found it. A box, labeled in my handwriting. Kitchen stuff. Donate. Inside, beneath mismatched mugs and an old toaster, was the knife set I'd given Dad for his birthday. German steel. Premium handle. Bought with my first bonus check. I remembered the day I gave it to him. He nodded, said, "Thanks." That was it. Weeks later, I visited Tanya's new place and saw the same set sitting on her counter. "Dad wanted you to have it," she'd said. I didn't argue then. But now, holding the knives in my hands again, I felt something tighten in my chest. Not pain, just clarity. A moment I didn't need to analyze. I put the box in my car and drove it home. They were mine. And this time, they stayed with me. A few days later, a small package showed up at my door. No return label. Inside was a wooden jewelry box I hadn't seen since middle school. It used to sit on my dresser. On top of it, a photo, me, holding a trophy at the district science fair. 7th grade. Smiling like I had no idea what was coming next. A note folded inside the box. "These belong to you. I should have made sure you knew that. Dad." No apology, but not silence either. I held the picture for a long time. Let the memory wrap around me without resistance. And then, I cried. Not from anger, not even sadness. From the release. From the weight of finally being handed back something that was always mine. That weekend, I drove to their house. I didn't call ahead, didn't plan a speech. I just walked up and knocked. Patricia opened the door. She looked like she'd been expecting me, nervous, guarded. I handed her the envelope, the same one I'd left on the table during Tanya's brunch, the one they had repackaged and reassigned. "I'm giving this back," I said, calm. "Not because I forgive you, but because I'm done carrying it." She looked down at it, quiet for a moment, then softly. "I didn't know it mattered that much." I nodded. "It always mattered. You just didn't ask." She didn't stop me when I turned and walked away. That night, I came home and opened the photo again, framed it this time. Hung it in the hallway, next to the mirror where I once whispered my name like it needed permission to exist. Now, it didn't. I made myself dinner, something simple, but set the table. One plate, one glass, a candle. Not because I was alone, because I was enough. I didn't need them to see me, I said under my breath. I needed me to stop hiding. For the first time, the apartment didn't feel like a waiting room. It felt like mine. The next morning, I donated the clothes I wore to Tanya's brunch, folded them carefully, no malice, just cleansing. I mailed the original envelope back to myself, the one I'd written months ago. When it arrived, I opened it slowly, read my own handwriting. "Happy birthday, Mom. Hope this makes your day a little brighter." I smiled, not bitterly, just full. I sat down at my desk and pulled out a new notebook, wrote 3 words on the first page. Next chapter. Then added a sentence that came without effort. I survived a family who only knew one way to love, and I taught myself another.